Odyssey, Book 5, Calypso. Odysseus reaches Scheria on a raft. And now, as dawn rose from her couch beside Tithonus, harbinger of light, a light to mortals and immortals, the gods met in council, and with them Zeus, the lord of thunder, who is their king. Thereon Athena began to tell them of the many sufferings of Odysseus, for she pitied him away there in the house of the nymph Calypso. Father Zeus, said she, and all you other gods that live in the everlasting bliss, I hope there may never be such a thing as a kind and well-disposed ruler any more, nor one who will govern equitably. I hope they will be all henceforth cruel and unjust, for there is not one of his subjects but has forgotten Odysseus, who ruled them as though he were their father. There he is lying in great pain in an island where dwells the nymph Calypso, who will not let him go, and he cannot get back to his own country, for he can find neither ships nor sailors to take him over the sea. Furthermore, wicked people are now trying to murder his only son Telemachus, who is coming home from Pylos and Sparta, where he has been to see if he can get news of his father. What, my dear, are you talking about? Replied her father. Did you not send him there yourself because you thought it would help Odysseus to get home and punish the suitors? Besides, you are perfectly able to protect Telemachus and to see him safely home again, while the suitors have to come scurrying back without having killed him. When he had thus spoken, he said to his son Hermes, Hermes, you are our messenger. Go therefore and tell Calypso, we have decreed that dwarf Odysseus is to return home. He be conveyed neither by gods nor men, but after a perilous voyage of 20 days on a raft, he is to reach fertile Scheria, on the land of the Phaeacians, who are near of kin to the gods, and will honor him as though he were one of ourselves. They will end him in a ship to his own country, and will give him more bronze and gold and raiment than he would have brought back from Troy, if he had had all of his prize money, and had gone home without disaster. This is how we have settled that he shall return to his country and his friends. Thus he spoke, and Hermes, guiding guardian, slayer of Argus, did as he was told. Forthwith, he bound on the glittering golden sandals with which he could fly like the wind over land and sea. He took the wand with which he seals men's eyes in sleep or wakes them, just as he pleases, and flew holding it in his hand over the area. Then he swooped down through the firmament till he reached the level of the sea, whose waves he skimmed like a cormorant that flies fishing every hole and corner of the ocean, and drenching its thick plumage in the spray. He flew and flew over many a wary wave, but when at last he got to the island which was his journey's end, he left the sea and went on by land till he came to the cave where the nymph Calypso lived. He found her at home. There was a large fire burning on the hearth, and one could smell from far the fragrant reek of the burning cedar and sandalwood. As for herself, she was busy at her loom, shouting her golden shuttle through the warp and singing beautifully. Round her cave there was a thick wood of outer poplar and sweet-smelling cypress trees, wherein all kinds of great birds had built their nests. Owls, hawks, and chattering sea crows had occupied their business in the waters. A vine loaded of grapes was trained and grew luxuriantly about the mouth of the cave. There were also 4 running rills of water in the channels, cut pretty close together, turned hither and thither so as to irrigate the beds of violets and the luscious herbage over which they flew. Even a god could not help being charmed with such a lovely spot. So Hermes stood still and looked at it, but when he had admired it sufficiently, he went inside the cave. Calypso knew him at once, for the gods all know each other, no matter how far they lived from one another. But Odysseus was not within. He was on the seashore as usual, looking out upon the barren ocean with tears in his eyes, groaning and breaking his heart for sorrow. Calypso gave Hermes a sway and said, Why have you come to see me, Hermes, honored and heaven welcome, for you do not visit me often. Say what you want, I will do it for you at once if I can, and if it can be done at all, come inside and let me set refreshment before you. As she spoke, she drew a table loaded with ambrosia beside him and mixed him some red nectar. So Hermes ate and drank till he had enough, and then said, We are speaking God and goddess to one another, and you ask me why I have come here, and I will tell you truly as you have me do. Zeus sent me, and it was no doing of mine. Who could possibly want to come all this way over the sea, where there are no cities full of people to offer me sacrifices or choice hecatombs? Nevertheless, I had to come, for none of us other gods can cross Zeus, nor transgress his orders. He says that you have here the most ill-starred of all those who fought 9 years before the city of King Priam, and sailed home in the 10th year after having sacked it. On their way home they sinned against Athena, who raised both wind and waves against them, so that all his brave companions perished, and he alone was carried hither by wind and tide. Zeus says that you are to let this man go at once, for it is decreed that he will not perish here, far from his own people, that he shall return to his house and country and see his friends again. Calypso trembled with rage when she heard this. You gods, she exclaimed, ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You are always jealous and hate seeing a goddess take a fancy to a mortal man and live with him in open matrimony. So when rosy-fingered Dawn made love to Orion, you precious gods were all of you furious till Artemis went and killed him and Ortegea. So again, when Cerberus fell in love with Iasian and yielded to him in a thrice fallow field, Zeus came to hear of it before so very long and killed Iasian and with his thunderbolts. And now you are angry with me too, because I have a man here. I found the poor creature sitting all alone astride of a keel, for Zeus had struck his ship with lightning and sunk it in mid-ocean, so that all his crew were drowned, while he himself was driven by wind and waves onto my island. I got found on of him and cherished him, and had set my heart on making him immortal, so that he should never grow old all his days. Still I cannot trust Zeus, nor bring his counsels to nothing. Therefore, if he insists upon it, let the man go beyond the seas again. But I cannot send him anywhere myself, for I have neither ships nor men who can take him. Nevertheless, I will readily give him such advice, in all good faith, as will be likely to bring him safely to his own country. Then send him away, said Hermes, for Zeus will be angry with you and punish you. On this he took his leave, and Calypso went out to look for Odysseus, for she had heard Zeus's message. She found him sitting upon the beach with his eyes ever filled with tears and dying of sheer homesickness, for he had got tired of Calypso, and though he was forced to sleep with her in the cave by night, it was she, not he, that would have it so. As for the daytime, he spent it on the rocks on the seashore, weeping and crying aloud for his despair, and always looking out upon the sea. Calypso then went close up to him and said, My poor fellow, you shall not stay here grieving and dreading your life out any longer. I am going to send you away of my own free will, so go cut some beams of wood, and make yourself a large raft with an upper deck that it may carry you safely over the sea. I will put bread, wine, and water on board to save you from starving. I will also give you clothes, and I will send you a fair wind to take you home if the gods in heaven so will it, for they know more about these things and can settle them better than I can. Odysseus shuddered as he heard her. Now, goddess, he answered, there is something behind all this. You cannot be really meaning to help me home, and you bid me do such a dreadful thing as put to sea on a raft. Now, to even a well-found ship with a fair wind could venture on such a distant voyage. Nothing that you can say or do shall make me go on board a raft, unless you first solemnly swear that you and me mean no mischief. Calypso smiled at this and caressed him with her hand. You know a great deal, said she, but you are quite wrong here. May heaven above and earth below be my witness, and the waters of the river Styx, and this is the most solemn oath with which a blessed God can take, that I mean you no sort of harm, and I only advising you to do exactly what I should do myself in your place. I am dealing with you quite straightforwardly. My heart is not made of iron, and I am very sorry for you. When she had thus spoken, she led the way rapidly before him. Odysseus followed. And steps so the pair, goddess and man, went on and on till they came to Calypso's cave, where Odysseus took the sea from Hermes, had just left Calypso, so set meat and drink before him of the food that the mortals eat. But her maids brought ambrosia and nectar for herself, and they laid their hands on good things that were before them. When they had satisfied themselves of meat and drink, Calypso spoke, saying, Odysseus, noble son of Laerces, so you would start home to your own land at once. Good luck go with you, but if you could only know how much suffering is in store for you before you get back to your own country, you would stay where you are. Keep house along with me, and let me make you immortal. No matter how anxious you may be to see this wife of yours of whom you are thinking all the time, day after day, yet I flatter myself that I am no whit less tall or well-looking than she is, for it is not to be expected that a mortal woman should compare in beauty with an immortal. Goddess, replied Odysseus, do not be angry with me about this. I am quite aware that my wife, Penelope, is nothing like so tall or beautiful as yourself. She is only a woman, whereas you are immortal. Nevertheless, I want to get home, and I can think of nothing else. If some god affects me when I am on the sea, I will bear it and make the best of it. I have had infinite trouble with my land and sea already, so let us go with the rest. Presently the sun set, and it became dark, whereon the pair retired into the inner part of the cave and went to bed. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, Odysseus put on his shirt and cloak, while the goddess wore her dress of white gossamer fabric, very fine and graceful, with a beautiful golden girdle about her waist and veil to cover her head. She at once set herself to think how she could speed Odysseus on his way, so she gave him a great bronze axe that suited his hands. It was sharpened on both sides and had a beautiful olive wood handle fitted firmly on it. She also gave him a sharp axe and then led the way to the far end of the island where the largest trees grew, alder, poplar, and pine, that reached the sky, very dry and well seasoned, so as to sail light for him and water. Then, when she had shown him where the best trees grew, Calypso went home, leaving him to cut them, which he soon finished doing. He cut down 20 trees in all and added them smooth, squaring them by rule in good workmanlike fashion. Meanwhile, Calypso came back with some augers, so he bore